I think I texted you saying, "Hey,
Immediately, by the way. I mean, it was like no sooner did I click the button than I had hot loo all over me. I had to wash it off.
there's a Facebook logo in like a bat signal that comes up over my house every time somebody makes a mistake on Facebook."
Well, here we are.
You don't sound like Hot Lou.
A little.
You do sound a little bit.
In that I'm a mammal speaking English.
And a male mammal at that.
A male mammal speaking English. It's all a matter of perspective, Lou.
Right. The perspective, like, I think in, what was it, 8th grade, we were in honor choir together, despite the fact that I have no business belonging in any sort of honor choir.
Yeah. And at the time, I was a high tenor and you were already a low bass.
I was. That's right. And
Yeah.
so I wonder if there's any listeners out there that can't tell the difference between Hot Lou and Hot Mike 3.
I bet it's not very many.
Yeah, probably not. I did recently get asked if you have a beard.
Really?
True. We have a ton of Hot Mike 3 fans out there.
Her name is Amanda.
Yeah, exactly. And my response, because I have, and maybe this is a topic for another show in the future, I have a slight case of face blindness. So I have a very hard time picturing people's faces or even recognizing them unless they have very distinct features.
Okay.
So when the person asked me if you had a beard, I didn't know the answer.
For real?
For real. Yeah.
That is remarkable.
It is. We should do a whole episode on this because
Yeah.
there have been times, like my dad shaved his mustache one time, and I think you can recall.
Sure.
My dad has a mustache
Yeah.
and has my entire life.
Right.
And when he did it, when I saw him, it took me like a good 15 or 20 seconds to really be confident it was actually him.
That is remarkable. This is a new thing I'm learning about you.
Yeah.
Okay, it's my role to point out this is an audible format. I do have a beard. I have had a beard for over 20 years in varying shapes. It's usually
Right.
more of like a goatee style.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
occasionally, and for the last several years, I've been growing it out over the winter, the whole beard.
Yeah.
That seems to be a trendy thing to do.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I'm not a very trendy person. But yeah. No.
I will just say that I knew you had a beard at some point or didn't at other points.
It's now been a solid majority of my life.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't know the answer to it.
That is
So
funny.
It's
Oh,
funny
that's
that this is new to you too, because it's actually new to me, because I didn't even realize this was a thing until a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that I've found mechanisms to compensate for it.
Okay.
And that other people who have the same thing just live with it and compensate for it and don't know the difference.
Well, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure that's true. I mean, opening a vein here, we recently found out that one of our children, their youngest, has some hearing loss, and it's interesting to consider what the world is like to him because he doesn't know he has hearing loss. I mean,
Right.
for him, everything is normal. For him, the world is how it always has been.
Right.
And so, I mean, it'll be fascinating. We're getting it addressed, of course, and as he gets treatment and starts to regain his hearing, we hope it'll be fun to watch. Kind of that whole different part of the world open up. We've seen these YouTube videos of babies who were born deaf who've been able to hear for the first time.
Right. And their parents just cry.
And well, and they're
emotionally
always so
over.
yeah. The babies are.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, when I watch those videos, I just tear up.
Who doesn't?
But I imagine the way that you actually figured this out is you were telling your dad jokes and 3 of your children would laugh.
I was going to say, we should probably introduce the show. I am your host today, Mike Franklin, or somewhat Danny Tannerly known as the Dad Jokes Daily entrepreneur.
And I'm just Lou. Welcome to the Lou Show.
It is the Hot Lou Show. Mike's driving today, at least for a little while here. And Lou's, he's had the wheel for a long time. He needs some time to stretch out, enjoy his beef jerky and sunflower seeds on this road trip we call podcasting. But the reason I'm driving today is because we decided to spend a little time and extract some lessons from a social experiment that we've talked about before, but now it's been out there for a while, and it's a Facebook page called Dad Jokes Daily, and that it had its origin story in this studio, sort of. I mean,
Shared, at least.
Yeah, the actual page had its origin story in this studio. The social experiment we discussed in an earlier episode started about a year before that with me just doing dad jokes because I found them hilarious. But now we have data, we have numbers, and I don't know how to interpret them, Lou. But this is why you're here.
Exactly.
You can provide some insight into the insights, and we can extract maybe a couple lessons from this little social experiment.
Yeah, I thought maybe before we dive into the numbers, we can retell the story really, really briefly.
Sure.
And we'll also include a link to the previous show in the show notes so people can review. But why don't you give us a recap?
The real highly condensed version is about, I guess a year and a half ago or so. I posted what I thought to be a very punny and ironic picture. This is back during the days when we were fascinated by the Yanni versus Laurel debate, and there was a photo, or rather a poster of Yanni, the famous singer, coming to town, and I posted it and said I'd like to see Laurel, or something along those lines. And before the week and a half that ensued was over, I had been acquiring and had been sent. It was one of the most highly engaging posts that organically that I had ever had. People were reaching out to me. They thought it was hilarious. I had like 150 likes and some shares and stuff. So then before long, I was starting to do one of these, as it turned out, almost daily. And then it became daily. And before long, it was a thing. And so before I even realized what was going on, I had been doing this for about a year. And so by then, I was a co-host on the Hot Lou Show. And it was the subject for conversation about what I've learned from that. So you can hear all about that in a little longer format from a show that's in the archives.
And I think at that time where we were just chatting about it, it seemed to make sense that while you were doing this for your Facebook friends, and that this was a Facebook experiment kind of for yourself because you were motivated to kind of take a little bit of a step away from a little bit more divisive conversations on Facebook to something that was more universally accepted and positive. And
just for clarity, I feel like I have not put much out there ever that's been divisive. But given what I've seen from others, I felt that it could be my tiny little way to help, create a corner of the internet that's not awful.
And then transition into saving humanity by reaching more than just your Facebook friends.
Exactly.
So we created a Facebook page called Dad Jokes Daily, which is now a sponsor of the show. So we might as well.
Yeah, we got to run the ad.
Well, let's run the ad right now.
Hey, Lou.
Mike?
I'm doing these dad jokes
almost every day for over a year.
Yeah. Matter of fact, it has been every day. And it got me to thinking, Lou.
What did it get you thinking, Mike?
What if I started a Facebook page where I did a dad joke every day and it wouldn't be limited to just my Facebook friends?
But wouldn't that be a ton of work to try to have to publish that every single day, Mike?
Not if you did it all at once, Lou, and created the content using Evergreen.
That's brilliant.
You know what? That's exactly what I did. And you, the listener, can enjoy dad jokes every day by going to facebook.com and searching Dad Joke Daily, or by going to @dadjokeseveryday. Dad joke every day. One joke. One joke.
And we'll have a link at hotlou.com/dadjokedaily.
What if I want more than one dad joke every day?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, I think one dad joke a day should probably be everybody's upper limit.
So go to @dadjokeeveryday, and you too can enjoy the hilarity that animates my life and kept me out of the really good schools. What a great ad that was, Lou.
That was, I can't stop scrolling through it. I'm having a hard time paying attention to the show as I browse through Dad Jokes Daily on Facebook.
Well, and let's get into the numbers a little bit, but it's clearly, the good people over there have just done yeoman's work in providing us not only with today content, but B, amazing support for the show. We just literally couldn't do this without the team over there at Dad Jokes Daily. So thank you, guys.
Yeah, we'd be eating pizza in our probably
underwear.
I was going to give a location, but I love that you went to the wardrobe.
All right, things I learned today. Underwear is a wardrobe.
Yeah, so this kind of digs into a handful of the tactics that I think we have shared over the last, a couple dozen episodes or so. And, one of them was to just obviously put out content that you can recycle and is evergreen. You want to publish frequently. And, I'll say that this tangentially is also related to, a handful of challenges that organizations have to try to get followers to their brand, or, if they've got a B2B business, why would anybody ever like that? And that can be a challenge. So sometimes creating an additional page that might be less branded, but is more kind of content focused and focused on the consumer of that content, it's so much easier to build an audience.
Yeah.
And while we might not be able to leverage the Dad Jokes Daily audience specifically for, directly for either of our organizations or businesses.
No, but the lessons you can derive and distill from this experiment, and maybe in a future show we'll talk about other experiments that we're doing that are more along the lines to sort of demand generation for my business in particular. But getting into some of the numbers from the Dad Jokes Daily, I've been really impressed to hear basically from you. I mean, look, my role in this on the back end is essentially basically to find content, to archive and distill.
Curate.
Curate. That was sort of the curate content. We're really giving people a peek behind the curtain here. I mean, I think they probably thought this was a much bigger enterprise than it is. Okay. So
they probably thought that sponsorship check was huge.
Don't tell anybody, but it's really just Lou and me.
Yeah. This is between us and the listener.
Yep. So listener, okay, the Camel page is most assuredly a bigger team than the Dad Jokes, but that's a global thing. But so Lou's really been the one to sort of take the content and tweak using the Evergreen tool to kind of help generate views, likes, shares, and post engagements, and it's really gone well. And my lesson as a neophyte to trying to generate automated content on social media is, and we've talked about this in previous shows, you never know which ones are going to be smash hits. And it's probably a little bit of an accident of time of day, certainly the nature of the content, and probably other factors, but some of the things I think are just the most hilarious ones don't get that much engagement, and then some of the ones like the one I was just looking at with there's a picture of a police car without tires on it, and it says that they've been searching tirelessly. Just tickled me, but it must have tickled everybody because it went out. That one went with hundreds of views even in the last couple of days. So. Actually, more than hundreds, thousands, 5.7K in the last couple days.
So I wanted to share a couple of things that we did to get to the point where we are now, and then I'm going to share some numbers. So the first thing that we did was obviously come up with, I think, a page name that was going to immediately resonate with whoever the audience might end up being. And given that we were going to seed the growth through invitations, which was kind of the next thing that we were going to do, which was have you invite a bunch of your friends to like the page, that would at least give a little bit of an initial growth kick to it right out of the gate. And the third thing that we started doing was cross-pollinating. So that was something that we talked about at length in several of the shows, but you have been doing this by sharing it to not only do you still post your daily dad joke either by, curation, brand new curation, and you just share it, or, I imagine that there are days where you just don't necessarily have the time or thought to put into it.
Yep.
And you're like, actually, there was already one out there on the Dad Jokes Daily page, so I'm just going to reshare that.
It's somewhat intentional. I mean, I try not to do it every day,
right?
So that for my own personal brand, I'm not just totally linked with Dad Jokes Daily. Again, keep this between us. But I don't know. I don't have a set schedule, but it's every other day or every third day. I'll just share the Dad Jokes Daily one, and especially when it's one that I chuckle out loud at, which is very often because the posts are phenomenal.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the fun parts, and we talked about it when Dina and Mandy were in, that when you're publishing evergreen content on an automated basis through the Evergreen software, that occasionally posts that you yourself have scheduled effectively through automation are surprising you, and you're enjoying it yourself.
Well, because just the way this works, it's literally been weeks since I've seen this post and thought it was good enough. And of course, I've done literally tens of things in that time.
Wow. I'm impressed with your productivity.
Yeah. I mean, my schedule, it's I'm talking I'm booked every single day from noon to 2. every day.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Holy
and,
cow.
and I mean between a couple naps and anyway,
Wow.
but yeah, you see these posts after 3 or 4 weeks, you've forgotten all about them, and then you laugh all over again, and you go, that was really valuable to me.
Thank goodness for Evergreen. Well, that was the third thing we did with some cross-pollination with you sharing it to your Facebook friends, but also, I've got a handful of pages that I'm able to share the posts with occasionally as well, that if the message is aligned, it makes a lot of sense to reach that audience. But the last thing that we did is we did actually put out an ad to attract new followers. And just briefly, I do want to talk about that because when we first launched it, you jumped in and you're like, I'm going to boost this post.
Yep.
And I think your motivation was kind of twofold. You probably thought, one, I want more people to see this one because I think it's funny. And secondly, you were probably hoping that by boosting it, you would get more likes on the page.
That's right. Yep.
And I think I texted you saying, hey.
Immediately, by the way. I mean, it was like no sooner did I click the button than I had hot loo all over me.
Yeah, there's
had to wash it
actually
off.
there's a Facebook logo in like a bat signal that comes up over my house every time somebody makes a mistake on Facebook. And I'm like, oh no, I need to check everything.
I just picture the yellow eyes of Mark Zuckerberg staring through your window.
I am the Dark Knight of Mark Zuckerberg's world. Yeah. So in any case, yeah, as soon as you did that, I noticed, hey, we're certainly okay boosting that post, if you want to do that. But it makes a lot more sense to focus if you jump into Facebook's Ads Manager and you can set an objective towards more people liking the page, and it'll run a specific type of ad to get more likes. So we stopped your boosted post, and then instead we ran one ad for $20, and that skyrocketed the growth almost immediately, and we targeted the right audience for it.
I mean, in the last month, I'm just looking at the page insights on my phone. 51.7 thousand reach, over almost 9,000 engagements, and over 130 new likes. And that was a period in which we didn't spend any money.
Right. This is just in the last 30 days, right?
Yeah, 28.
The last 28 days.
Yep.
So I'm going to share the specific Evergreen post numbers just from the last 7 days.
Okay.
So now the page has, at the time we're recording this, about 1,100 some likes, and we got to 1,000 pretty quickly using the strategy that I just described and the tactics. But now on a weekly basis, and this is last week, and I think it was kind of a little bit of a slower week for the page, there were 8,965 views of the posts in aggregate. There were 500 interactions with those posts, and they're publishing twice a day on a page with 1,100. So almost half, roughly. And they're not necessarily unique interactions, but you can imagine about half of the people are interacting with it. The best post represented 26% of all of the interactions from last week.
Wow.
Of the 14 that got published, because Evergreen's set to publish twice a day. And then the top 3 posts of the 14 that went out last week represented 55% of all of the interactions. So I think the lesson here, and we'll share these numbers in the show notes, but by publishing frequently, you are going to get to those posts that reach more people faster than if you're trying to specifically curate a single message every single day and forgetting about it several times a day and just getting it out there.
It just occurred to me I've done this a little bit, probably not in the most charitable fashion over the years, but I checked out a Facebook page of a former employer of mine, a place where I worked for about 7 years. And they're a statewide, very brand. Everybody would know this organization. They have on their page about 1,300 likes, and they've had a Facebook page for probably 12 or 13 years, and a full-time social media manager. 1,300 likes. Dad Jokes Daily has existed for about a month. We've spent $20, 20 American dollars, and it has about 1,100 likes. And I mean, this illustrates a lot of these lessons. That it's very difficult for a group like that, which is doing exactly what Lou just described in terms of promotion. It is very much a B2B organization that is probably posting content that maybe its members find interesting, and that's about it.
And, I'm going to, take a guess that full-time social media manager is probably being paid somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000 a year.
I wouldn't know, but
Yeah.
that's probably a fair guess.
Yeah. Even if that's on the high end, that's an investment of $500,000 in the last decade. Think about that. So by comparison, that's a crazy investment. And, I've seen the same thing with a handful of evergreen customers doing the exact same thing where, I'll just say outright that there's an agency that is a customer and they have 4 full-time social media managers who are working for their business and for their clients. And when I went to the first sales meeting, the 4 of them were sitting there saying, we're overwhelmed. We can't keep up. And that to me speaks volumes about the state that we're in of like social media management that, once upon a time, that marketing team was drafting, direct mail campaigns that would be like concerted efforts over, weeks on end, or maybe even had an email marketing team that was writing an email every single day. And now Facebook posts, which are generally considered disposable, is overwhelming this agency that's probably investing somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000 a year on that. And when I went in for the sales meeting, it was crazy. The first thing I said to them is, I looked at your Facebook page and you guys haven't published in 3 months. And they had 4 full-time social media managers. And, this does fall under the category of the cobbler's children have no shoes.
Yeah.
However, when you've got that many
but your
people,
market, you're an agent, like that seems to me to be kind of almost unforgivable. Like,
yeah, it's pretty crazy because I see
what would a potential customer check out? Reasonably speaking, your Facebook page might be one of the first couple things.
Yeah, I say it all the time, and I think I've said it on the show before. Facebook pages are very analogous to what websites were in like that 2001 to 2004 era, where now it speaks to the legitimacy of your organization if you've got an up-to-date social media presence.
Yep.
And, with that, I think the agency was a little bit embarrassed, but the hope was to expose them to this opportunity of publishing frequently and what it can do for you. And, I get that not everybody listening here can create a dad jokes daily.
It's a skill. We'll start with this. I knew I had it in me, and it really couldn't have done it without me and me alone.
Your unique talents are being brought to the dad joke vertical on the internet.
Yeah. No, it's I accept this award on behalf of all dads everywhere who are incapable of doing this.
It's going to be right next to your mantle on all the different awards. That second place finish in the spelling bee in 8th grade.
Oh, man. Almost there.
So close.
That's all right.
We've all got regrets in life.
We do.
One of them right now is not about creating the Dad Jokes Daily page, because I think we're both proud and humbled by the explosive growth that we're seeing there.
Absolutely. So check it out, Dad Jokes Daily. As we mentioned, they are a sponsor. The team over there appreciates your support. Like and share the page. Also go to hotloo.com. And engage with our show. I mentioned this now in the last few episodes, but do check out the show notes. They are well done by our team over there at hotloo.com, and they appreciate all the interaction and engagement with that. If your platform allows, leave us a review. Looking at you, Google.
If you can't leave a review on the platform that you're listening to the Hot Lou Show, tell a friend.
Yeah.
Or visit hotloo.com.
Yep.
In this particular case, the cobbler's children do have shoes.
Oh, yeah. There's shoes everywhere.
I smell a future Facebook page in our future.
That'll be it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Hot Lou Show.
And I am your former host, Hot Lou.
And I am your soon-to-be former host, Mike Franklin. Talk to you next Tuesday.